several years, local and state law enforcement have been more focused on the various forms of human trafficking.
But now a new movie in theaters may be bringing even more attention to the subject. Here's First News senior reporter Jerry Ricciuti.
Is one of the biggest movies of the summer educating people on the impact of human sex trafficking.
Can we tell you what is fact from fiction in our area, in our community, and how it affects people that we live and work with?
Stacey Altier is with the Trumbull County Health District and is also director for the Ohio Response, Recovery, and Interaction Network, which focuses on human trafficking. That's the subject of Sound of Freedom, which is now playing in Boardman and theaters around the country and stirring up some controversy.
That's the point. It is thought-provoking. It does start a conversation.
Mahoning County Sheriff Jerry Green oversees the Valley's Human Trafficking Task Force, which has staged a number of sting operations targeting men trying to meet young children for sex. He thinks the movie's subject matter sheds a light on the problem that places Ohio fourth worst in the country.
Every time we're able to show how many predators there are out there looking for underage children and just, looking for people in the sex trade, it creates an awareness.
But Altier says the movie may also encourage parents to pay more attention to their children's activities, especially online, and others to learn the potential signs of trafficking.
To reach out to local resources, to have those educators come in and speak to them so they do know what to look for and how to, really see what's going on.
Jerry Ricciuti, WKBN 27 First News.
#1 movie in America wasn't Indiana Jones. Disney spent $300 million resurrecting Harrison Ford and releasing the summer blockbuster. But there's another movie dominating the box office. It's called The Sound of Freedom, and it beat Indiana Jones on opening day. The film's based off the true story of Tim Ballard, a former Homeland Security special agent who saved kids from an international sex trafficking ring.
It is the fastest growing international crime network that the world has ever seen.
We're Homeland Security. We can't go off rescuing Honduran kids in Colombia.
This job tears you to pieces. And this is my one chance to put those pieces back together.
So you quit your job and you go and rescue those kids.
This movie zeroes in on the multi-billion-dollar human trafficking industry and honors a hero, someone who saved children from sex slavery. But to the media, this person isn't a hero. Someone who rescues kids from pedophiles is a villain.
These films are created out of moral panics. They're created out of bogus statistics. They're created out of fear. And with something like Sound of Freedom, it specifically is looking at QAnon concepts of these child trafficking rings that are run by the high-level elites.
For some reason, the entire media is smearing this movie as a dangerous conspiracy theory. The press is saying that the star, Jim Caviezel, is a QAnon guy. And Jim plays Tim Ballard, which is strange because just a few years ago, the same media was celebrating Tim Ballard's heroics. Watch.
Tim Ballard has one mission: to track down child traffickers. 4 months ago, Colombian authorities asked him to investigate a tip that children were being sold there as sex slaves.
Within a half hour, this individual walks up to me, starts asking me what I'm here for, what I want, and within minutes, he says, well, I've got kids as young as 11 years old.
So why is the media warning people not to see a movie about child sex trafficking that's based on a true story? Well, the Spear Fund founder, Tim Ballard, joins me now. So, Tim, why is the media hating this movie?
I can't understand it. The film was made, produced, written like 5 years, 6 years ago, way before anyone heard the name QAnon. I still don't even know what QAnon is. In the meantime, they're trying to connect it to some conspiracy when, in fact, like you said, this is a true story. These are real kids. I mean, these kids are my friends. They're young adults now, the ones that were rescued. They're going to come out soon and tell their story. It's going to be very awkward when the mainstream media comes after these kids next and accuses them of being part of some conspiracy when, in fact, they were rescued from a life of rape. It's the most bizarre thing I've ever seen in the media, perhaps.
I mean, this publication says The Sound of Freedom is a superhero movie for dads with brain worms and that it fetishizes the torture of its child victims. Is that what the movie does?
It absolutely does not do that. It tells a story based in truth. And, you know, what I think is happening, Jesse, I think that the left and these media outlets, they don't want to have a discussion that this film is going to compel. A discussion about why 85,000 children showed up unaccompanied at the border and got released into the interior of a country that is the highest consuming country for child exploitation material on the planet. They don't want to talk about why these same publications are pushing an agenda to change the word pedophile to minor attracted persons in order to normalize sexual activity with children. I think that's what they're trying to avoid, and they know this film's going to shine a light on all of the things, all the atrocities happening to children, and so they have to discredit it by lying about it.
So what would their motivation be to discredit a movie that's trying to shine a spotlight onto atrocities committed against children?
Well, if the truth of human trafficking and child exploitation were to be brought to bear, brought to light, then they would have to have a debate, a discussion that they don't want to have about, again, these policies around sexualizing children or allowing children to consent at a young age to do anything and everything, which would eventually include being, you know, identifying as an adult perhaps and having sex with pedophiles. I hunt pedophiles. I've been hunting them for 20 years, and they are watching this and they're salivating. They are happy that Rolling Stones and The Guardian are ripping on a movie that exposes them. So I don't like the fact that these media outlets are in fact wittingly or unwittingly running interference for human traffickers and pedophiles. We intentionally go to the darkest corners of the earth where there is no hope and find these kids.
Cameras capture some of Tim Ballard's real-life missions to rescue children from sex trafficking. And now there's an even bigger light shining in the darkness.
It is the fastest growing international crime network that the world has ever seen. It has already passed the illegal arms trade, and soon it's going to pass the drug trade. Because you can sell a bag of cocaine one time to a child 5 to 10 times a day.
I'm Conrad Bain. Tonight on Different Strokes, we're starting a special two-part show on a very sensitive and important subject. Now, we urge families, children, and parents alike to watch both of these informative episodes and then to discuss the problem presented, which is of deep concern to all of us.
His name is Mr. Horse.
Right. Hey, Mr. Bicycle Man!
That show was very unsettling for me. I couldn't watch it. I didn't want to be around it. I asked him, don't write me in. Please write me out of most of this.
Give me a bite, please. Please. Don't just stand there. Help me grovel. Well, Daddy, I guess he could keep his bike downstairs in the garage.
Yeah, Dad, there's plenty of safe places to ride in the park. And as far as trades people go, I mean, they're everywhere. We've got one living in our apartment.
It was unsettling because I had myself gone through that. And watching it happening on the show, it was like reliving that all over again. I was reliving that whole thing all over again.
Maybe we better not let your dad know about the bike. In fact, maybe it would be best if you didn't even mention, that you came back here and I gave you all this ice cream before dinner. Why don't we just make it our little secret?
You know something, Mr. Horton? You're sneaky.
Sneaky?
Yeah, I'm getting a whole new respect for sneaky.
This is what happened in my life. And they didn't know about it.
You know something, Arnold? I really like you. I really like you. You and I are going to have a lot of good times together.
was a baby. I was 14 and he was 17. There was a school dance at my school. It's called the Sweetheart Dance. And Fred called me and we were talking on the phone, and all of a sudden he goes, "Jan?" I said, "Yeah." "Will you go to the Sweetheart Dance with me?" And he threw the phone down.
I hate rejection. Can't stand it.
So when he got back on the phone, I'm like, "Well, yeah, I'll go."
Dated all through high school, and I ended up going into service, and I asked her to marry me before I went into service. When I came home for good, she had a big oak tree in her front yard, her mom's front yard.
Yeah.
And I come down the street and there's a big yellow ribbon with a big bow tied around the tree, so.
I wanted him to see that I was waiting, and I will always wait for him. And I needed him to know that when he came down the street. I loved him, and couldn't wait to see him. Couldn't wait for him to be home. Freddie was born on Easter Sunday. Brought him home in a little bunny suit with ears, and then Mark came along 3 years later. We had a great time with our kids when they were growing up. They had sports. Freddie played soccer and baseball. Mark played soccer, baseball, and football. And we had a boat, and we went camping and fishing, and
We'd stay up and watch movies, and then you could get tired and they'd fall asleep. Well, I'd end up putting hair paint in their hair and putting makeup on them and all kinds of stuff while they were sleeping.
Yeah, they had fun.
And we had a blast. Mark had a great time as a kid through school.
Very well liked. Had a lot of friends.
Wake up in the morning, have 5, 7, 8 guys down there, that decided to drop by and spend the night. So, raid the refrigerator.
He had one girlfriend all the way through high school, and that he loved very much. And he just was real popular and fun, and he loved high school. I don't know what prompted him to think about modeling, but
when he was really young.
He was in his early teens when he first started talking about that.
Yeah.
He wanted me to take him to a modeling agency here in Cincinnati. We just have to tell him we just can't afford that. So he was not happy. I mean, he was disappointed, but he was okay. But I think it was a dream of his from the time he was that old, 12, 13, 14 years old. So when he got an opportunity, I couldn't say no.
Graduated high school and left for California.
My grandparents were the ones that made the move from Switzerland. They took out a map and then they kind of pointed wherever they wanted to go. My grandmother made my grandpa actually do it, and he told me he kind of purposely moved to LA because he wanted to see all the celebrities and stars and what people think they can see down here.
I think every little kid is, dreams about being famous and being in movies and, stuff like that. I mean, a lot of my heroes were actors. Johnny Depp was, the biggest at the time. I mean, and just everything that, he was able to do, the different personas that he was able to take on, that fascinated me.
Everyone had always said, as growing up as a kid, Mike should be in modeling or Mike should be in acting. It was great. So I got a good manager, and then I booked tons and tons and tons, especially print. I mean, it was like I couldn't stop booking it.
Yeah, he was thrilled. He was excited. We're from a Midwestern town, and that was really something new and something different, and Michael seemed to be thrilled with doing it.
I had a good life growing up. I started doing operas and stuff like that with my grandmother at the Houston Grand Opera. I remember going out at the very end of the opera and holding a sword up in the air, and like everybody, it was the very end, like going up and holding a sword, and everybody stood up and clapped and started throwing flowers and everything. It was just, and the sound of it was just amazing, the sound of the crowd. And that's probably the happiest acting memory that I have, the happiest experience that I have. I started developing an interest in acting and started taking acting classes in Houston and got an agent.
I don't know where you want to go. I don't know your venture. Look, this is California. This is where you make it. This is it. You know what I mean? This is where it all starts. You know, people try to die and they try to get you. You know what I mean? You here, so wish you luck, man.
Thank you very much.
Wish you luck.
Just the love of movies and film, and I just kind of grew up with it ever since I was like 5 years old. I was in What's Eating Gilbert Grape. I was in a couple of other films, and I was in The Apostle with Robert Duvall and Farrah Fawcett.
It tells me of a Savior's love who died to save.
The audition process was, we met up with Robert Duvall, and he sat at a piano. My little sister and I sang some songs with him.
Because he first loved me. Let's give a big hand clap for Jesus.
No, we could change the sadness into smile.
I have always been singing since I was 3.
I remember him taking afternoon naps, and he would wake up from his nap and he would sing. We thought he had a very good voice, but then we heard it from friends and even from people. You know, we would go to a restaurant and Evan was singing and people would just come up and say, oh my God, how cute he is, and he has such a good voice, and he has a talent. You should do something with that talent, you know.
I wanted to perform. I wanted to be part of that in crowd. I wanted to be friends with stars, so I could tell everybody else that I have friends who are celebrities. You're just attracted to, I guess, being the center of attention.
I was the kid most likely to be a star. I was Mr. Entertainment. Long blonde hair.
Hi. Can I borrow your towel? Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Probably play the bratty, person your mother warned you about. Yeah, I looked very young. So when I was 12, I could read for 8, 10, 9, and that's what LA looks for, Like now, I could probably play, 25 or 30, I'm sure.
You made an awful lot of money for the movie companies, and I would hope that you've gotten a nice big chunk yourself. You're doing all right, huh?
Yeah, I'm doing okay.
What do you want to do when you grow up?
It's tough. It's not as easy and glamorous as everybody thinks it is.
My name's Mason Gilbert, and I'm 6.5 years old.
If you don't understand right away that you're going to get a million no's and maybe one yes if you're lucky, maybe, you know what I mean, then you shouldn't be in this business.
As a child, especially, you're having a door slammed in your face every day, sometimes 6 times a day. You could go on a year's worth of auditions and not book a job. And that gets very frustrating because you're not seeing any benefit from what you're doing.
Video, you're probably a parent looking for information related to launching a career in the entertainment industry for your infant, child, or teen.
There's a lot of managers now in the business. When I first came to town managing kids, I was the only one. No one else managed children. They never heard of it. They looked at me like I was crazy. Several of the established agents wouldn't even talk to me. I must be a terrible person if I was coming with all these kids. It took a while to establish that children need management just like everybody else.
I'm one of the founding members of the then Screen Actors Guild Young Performers Committee, now SAG-AFTRA, and I have been the chair of the committee in the past. Now I'm just a foot soldier. Children are mostly willing to listen. They're ready to absorb things. They haven't yet developed any preconceived ideas about who they are and how they're going to get somewhere. We try and advise them what directions to go in, and when you're doing that, you're managing the parent as well.
When parents enter the entertainment industry, they're typically entering the industry because their child has asked them to, because it's a dream of their child, or because someone has approached them and said that their child was somehow suited to the industry. They don't have any idea how the industry really works.
A lot of kids I knew had gotten emancipated, and because of they wanted to have the studio see them as an adult, so they wouldn't have to pay for set teachers and have to have their parents on set, etc. Like, you're more likely to be hired that way.
The actor is responsible for their headshot and their resume. So my pet peeve is the actor that comes in and says, "Oh, my mom has that in the waiting room." Your mom should never have your headshot and resume unless she's picking them up from the print shop. Once you are 8, you are responsible for your own career.
The internet changed everything for us. We were quite surprised to find our own children's pictures were being sold on eBay. Just their regular headshots, not anything salacious, not even anything erotic. Our kids were not famous at all. They were working, but they were certainly not where anyone would care that their headshots were being sold on eBay. And yet it became clear that they were, and they were being sold for a lot of money. And you wonder, who wants my kid's picture for $300? Especially a printed picture that we'd send you for free. We started the process of investigating. We started to put together a matrix of the photographers and the sellers and who was doing what. We were very disturbed to find that they were really close to us, really, really close.
My cousin Darian, he was working all the time. Like, he went to 50 auditions, like, in a span of 2 months or something. It seemed like he was actually, moving up.
Well, the way it happened is because of his cousin. He was already signed with a manager.
My parents and, my sister approached and just said that, hey, Darian's doing very well with Marty. You guys should check it out.
Martin Weiss, better known as Marty, was a manager in Hollywood for probably a good 15 years. He managed child actors, boys and girls, but primarily boys. Marty had close relationships with his clients. He had sleepovers regularly, screening parties with his clients regularly. He would take them out Halloween trick-or-treating, all his clients together, and he would dress up like a dinosaur or a shark or Thing 1 or Thing 2 from The Grinch. He was very aggressive as a manager, though, and he was honestly very good at it. His clients got auditions. They got work.
He said, all you have to do is sing a few songs and you'll make it big, and you'll meet a producer, you'll get signed by a label, you can star on Disney Channel shows. What kid wouldn't want that, right?
It happened pretty quick. I remember he was signed with Marty at age 11.
I didn't really think, quite honestly, at the time that much would come of it.
Okay, our next performer began his singing career less than 1 year ago and already caught the eye and ear of several major names in the industry.
I remember I did the Young Artist Awards.
Well, he was excited. He got dressed up and was a bit nervous.
We did too.
I think maybe we were more nervous than he was.
For us, it was extremely exciting, and we were really proud of Evan. And it also felt, at least I thought it felt right for Evan too. When he was up there singing, he was like a natural.
Marty called me one day. He was like, Evan, I have a surprise. You got a Burger King commercial.
Open season toys are now at Burger King. You can collect all 8 open season toys. There's one for kids' meal. And you can have a smart treat like milk. Have it your way. Open season at Burger King now.
It was exciting because I never did a commercial and I landed a commercial.
Great to see your kid on TV, you know, the first time. Hey, there's Evan.
Right. So we were very proud. Marty really, you know, he did a lot for Evan.
My parents dropped my brother and I off at my aunt's house, and then we met Marty, and then he picked my cousins and my brother and I up, and we went to play basketball at a park. And, you know, he was kind of cool. He was, you know, he would make jokes, and, you know, he was really immature, and we were all immature back then, and he'd crack sex jokes, and I thought nothing was wrong with it. My cousin and him, they seemed to be friends already, and they would, you know, there was no filter. They'd just say whatever they wanted.
As we got to know him, he was, you know, he's a nice guy, and over the years, you know, he became more or less part of the family. You know, Marty would be there every weekend, and for every holiday, for every Christmas, every birthday.
We were playing basketball, and he would make weird jokes like, "Oh, Evan, do you know what a blowjob is?" And, you know, they made me feel like I didn't fit in because I didn't know some of these terms yet. I was 11.
We came to find out that, you know, Marty didn't have a family, was alone and whatever, and he just kind of got, I don't know if the right word's adopted, but he just became part of the family.
Later that night, he just, you know, he was like, "Why don't we just talk about music a little bit?" I was in the passenger seat in the front. He just kept driving around, and we talked about kind of what I would sing, what artists I like, and Marty, all of a sudden, out of the blue, you know, he was like, "Did you ever see an old man's penis before?" And I was like, whoa, that's kind of odd, and I didn't want to, you know, be disrespectful and just get out of the car, and, you know, what would I do? I was kind of in the middle of nowhere with this guy. I told him no, I never saw an older man's penis before. And, you know, we got out and we were walking, we got to a park, and there was a tree, and he pushed me to the tree and was like, "I'll show you what a blowjob is."
Marty.
Thanks, Marty. You're welcome, bud.
That is cool.
All right.
Thanks, Marty.
My pleasure.
Nice.
I kept saying no, no, and he was pulling my pants down, and I didn't know what to do after that. Like, do I tell somebody? Because he was really cool. Everybody liked him. And yeah, I considered it like nothing really happened. I can just brush it off. It'll go away, no problem.
Around November of 2011, I became aware of this issue of child abuse in Hollywood. You have young children who are aspiring actors. Because of these aspirations, they end up being somewhat easy targets. In some cases, have parents who set aside normal cautions and allow their children access to adults when parents might normally be alarmed.
Any actor is vulnerable in that position. Actors put themselves in the hands of coaches, agents, managers, publicists, and by and large trust them.
You know, being up sometimes really early to go to these auditions and stuff. That was when Michael Harriot approached me and said, you know, well, you can come and stay at my house with, you know, the other guys that are there. He had 3 other guys staying in the house with him that were his clients.
Many of the kids that I worked with couldn't have even been able to take advantage of being in the industry had they had to have their families move here with them.
From 10, 11 to 16, 17, but I still thought it was rather odd, you know, that someone would let their 10-year-old son move in with at the time, I think, mid-50s-year-old man.
I I do see the possibility that things can be misinterpreted, and I try to be very aware of that. No matter how closely you're working with someone, and you do work closely with clients in these situations, there still has to be that professional line in there where you say, we're not stepping over this.
We worry about stranger danger. Don't let your child be alone with a stranger. Everyone really tends to think that a pedophile is kind of a rapist, but really that's not how they work. They employ a process called grooming that is a slow, meticulous way of convincing a child and their parents to trust them.
And there's the official photographer with a nice smile.
The perpetrator in these types of situations has the ideal layer. You know, this is their environment. They are creating or constructing a reality for themselves that accommodates their particular patterns of sexual arousal.
The predator is looking at this as a way to work their way into your life, to make a personal relationship with the children and to be there to bond with them.
Whoa, guys, big hands for Arno. He did it. It's a man.
Typically, a predator is grooming many, many children at the same time in their grooming process, because a predator knows, like any tiger in the jungle, they're not going to catch every rabbit. They just need to catch the weak ones.
We went back and began to try to do some sort of reporting to try to determine how widespread this problem is.
Marty was very well known in the community. He had friends who were buying and selling pictures on eBay. We started to realize that some of the sellers were convicted sex offenders. We knew that he was somehow involved with another convicted sex offender, Bob Villard, who was selling pictures on eBay. Bob Villard was a very prominent publicist in the 1980s in Hollywood.
I knew Bob Villard casually as someone who was in the industry, and he did do publicity sometimes for clients that I had.
He handled big names like Tobey Maguire and Leonardo DiCaprio. He was very well known as a publicist. Bob Villard was also a photographer.
So I meet Bob Villard as a publicist who can, who's a good photographer, bring exposure and whatnot, I believe through Michael Hara.
He was one of our biggest eBay sellers. It became obvious to us that Bob Villard was selling candid photos that he had taken.
You're there for a weekend and he feels just comfortable enough to try to touch you when you drank a few beers, or it's always good to get that few beers, and he tries to touch me.
We always knew his photo style because he typically had the kids shirtless, typically took an angle that was from the top down, so that the children are looking up at the camera as they would be looking up at the predator in an abuse situation. Bob Villard was a manager, he was a publicist, he was connected.
I can tell you that the number one problem in Hollywood was and is and always will be pedophilia. There was a circle of older men, and they all had either their own power or connections to great power that surrounded themselves around this group of kids.
And it's widespread?
Oh, yeah. I was surrounded by them. They were everywhere like vultures.
For us, that really connected a lot of people. Connections between how the kids got hooked in. We started to see the patterns. One of Bob Villard's favorite subjects was Brock Pierce. He was a common snapshot boy being sold by Bob Villard's eBay seller. Brock in the pictures was young, appeared to be 13, 14. Brock Pierce, meanwhile, was connected to Mark Collins Rector and Chad Shackley. We saw that they owned a company together called Den, which again, on the surface, it seems kind of logical that a child actor would grow up and become, use their money that they had made as a child perhaps and open an internet company. When we started to realize what this really was, it became a much bigger deal.
I was a New York City police detective, went to college and law school, became an investment banker, and then I backed into writing I've broken very big stories over the years. I'm very fortunate to break big stories. In the late 90s, 1990s, the NASDAQ went from 10,000 to like 1,000. And a lot of people lost fortunes. And one of the ones was Digital Entertainment Network that I just happened to go across my desk, and I read about it a little bit. And I thought it might be a good story.
In the 80s, it was MTV that captured the attention of young people all over the world. However, now that youngsters are turning to the internet, a company called Digital Entertainment Network thinks they've got a chance of becoming the next big thing. They've created television-like programming exclusively for the web.
What makes Den different than other internet companies that have come before it? It's a fusion of the marketing power of Madison Avenue with the technology of Silicon Valley and the entertainment of Hollywood.
They were aiming their programming primarily for young people. So it was a whole new concept.
The majority of young people today are not finding themselves reflected in television. We're creating content that specifically targets your needs, your wants, your desires.
We're creating a new form of entertainment to serve the global youth audience.
Can we get a little sponge from Mark?
Makeup.
Mark Collins Rector, somehow on one of the early chat lines, which were little more than hookup places, he came across Chad Shackley.
You really should be on camera.
I'm on camera.
Who at the time was a 15-year-old kid, and Collins Rector was much older than that. Mark Collins Rector moves to be close to Chad Shackley, and then they start, for lack of a better word, dating. Eventually, Chad moves in with Mark Collins Rector.
Chad and I had jointly developed Concentric Network Corporation, which was one of the very first internet service providers.
And then they brought in Brock Pierce. Now, how Brock Pierce eventually landed there is anybody's guess.
A friend of ours introduced us to Brock Pierce, and Brock at the time was producing his first independent feature. He'd been an actor for many years, and together, the three of us completed what was eventually to become Den.
Everybody was just owing money then. David Geffen, I believe, put in $250,000. Bryan Singer, he had $50,000. Michael Huffington put about $5 million into this. It must have been $150 million that was pumped into us. Now, 15 years ago, $150 million was still a pretty good piece of change.
I need somebody to ask me a question so I can give you an answer. Is that Jay? Come here, Jay. Drill me on camera.
He was flamboyant. I mean, everybody told me he was very theatrical, very dramatic. He had a very good way of getting his way. And think about this. He takes a 15-year-old kid from his parents to move in with him. That's Chad. Most of us would be afraid to, even if we did, whether it was male or female, you'd be terrified to even ask that question for fear that they're going to come and take you away in handcuffs.
Surely you have something out of all this bullshit you can cut 5 seconds out of to get from me, right?
Yes.
All right.
Yes. They had a great idea. Their idea was to make their own films and put it on the internet. Well, lo and behold, that's what Netflix is doing now. Of course, it's 15 years later. The problem was the internet or computers did not have the capability for that. But meanwhile, they were paying people money and filming as though it were a major studio.
I was called to go out for an audition for the show, Royal Standard.
I am 14 years old, and I started acting when I was about 5 years old. I enjoy it a lot, so it's a fun thing.
So we went over to Den, and I had the audition there, and I met him, met Mark Collins Rector, and I met some of the other people there. Everybody seemed impressed, and this is the guy for the part, the kid for the part, and yeah, that had never happened before, just getting hired on the spot like that. I thought he was nice. I thought he was a nice guy. I thought he was nice, you know.
How I feel about working on the Royal Standard set, it's great. The crew's wonderful. It's a lot of fun working on green screen. I get to learn some martial arts more than I already know, so it's lots of fun. It's wonderful.
Basement of my house. This was where Mark basically lived for a couple of years. So he spent most of his time down here. He was kind of like a hermit down here. This is where he hid out. I was looking for some paperwork. Mike had told me to look for some paperwork that Mark had. Mark had a copy and Mike had a copy. Came down here and I found these documents. I found Mark's deposition. Mark states, I met Michael Egan in '99 when I moved to Los Angeles.
He called us and told us that he was working for a company called Den. I know he was really happy about that. It was a big step for him. Mike was with him at the time.
I had already met Mark Collins' rector, Chad Shackley, and Brock Pierce at a graduation that we had for our private school. There were only a few people in my grade. Scott Shackley was Chad's little brother. So I was introduced to them. And then they gave me a job as an actor at Den in a TV show.
Was that good?
Was that good? Okay.
What are your favorite hobbies? My favorite hobbies? Ooh.
One of the first shows they produced was Chad's World. It was about a young boy who comes to live with this older man. It was a real example of art imitating life. Their lives.
Welcome to your new world, Chad.
Jeez, you guys fixed it all up for me.
In fact, they even filmed Chad's World at their house, the M&C Mansion.
You got your own TV, phone, VCR, stereo, your own jacuzzi. You got the works.
Oh yeah, I think I'll be able to hang here.
It was fulfilling a dream.
In or about September 1999, both Michael Egan and I were invited to a party.
We are at what used to be called the M&C estate. Mark Collins' rector and Chad Shackley's house.
Well, we arrived there and Michael introduced me to Collins' rector, Chad and Brock. Mark Collins' rector just showed me the house, showed me the backyard, the guest houses, went through all that.
There was no expense spared at the M&C estate. There really wasn't. The pool was ridiculous. There was a swim-up bar in the pool. I can remember often being served lunch, the butler or whatever, the chef would come out and bring lunch to the swim-up bar at the pool. You know what I mean? It was literally like going to Disney World for the first time. It was like, this is amazing.
This place you got here could definitely work to our advantage. Bring some girls here. They're gonna love this place.
Sounds good to me.
Before I even went to the house, Scott was like, my house is different. This, the dynamic at my house is not like a normal house.
I guess I should tell you, they're gay.
Hey, that's cool with me. I have no problem.
So Mark was definitely the leader, and then Chad, it was always Mark, the husband. Chad would be the female figure, the wife, and I don't know how in a normal context you would fit Brock into that picture. But...
Where do you want my eyes?
Right into the lens.
Into the lens? Okay.
If I was over late at night, you'd see they'd have people over getting into a hot tub with Chad or Brock or Mark or all three of them at one time getting in where he was naked and all of them were naked getting in the hot tub, and you'd start to see these different little things happen. I'd be like, what the hell is going on?
There's a skinny dipping rule after nighttime, so anybody who was over, it didn't matter who it was, that you had to skinny dip after dusk or whatever. You know what's going on, so you don't want to look right at it. It's like the sun during an eclipse. You know what I mean? You want to you want to look, but you don't want to look. You know what I mean? But
I can't say that. I mean, obviously they weren't having sex in the hot tub, like right out in the open, but, it was obvious to me that something was going on just by the position, But I can remember just like, again, like, yeah, well, I mean, that's going on over there. It's kind of weird, but I'm in this Olympic-sized heated swimming pool right now doing laps. You know what I mean? Like, who cares? So, you know what I mean? And it was definitely awkward.
What's the most exciting thing about Den to you?
The most exciting thing about Den is the people that work here, the people creating the content, the people that are running the show. We're a cool bunch.
Brock Pierce told me that they were going to a party in Hollywood Hills being held by David Newman.
This is American Bandstand. I was going to say if you're on ecstasy, but that's probably not a good idea. This is...
At this party, there were lots of drugs available, and there were many young teenage boys, ages 14, 15 there. Some of the big studio people were there, including Garth Ancier and Randall Kleisler. The party, with so many teenage boys and no women, not even the caterers, had made me feel uncomfortable.
They would find the good-looking ones that they wanted in their shows and then prey upon them. I remember I don't remember his name, but the one kid that was in Royal Standard, he was a younger kid, even younger than me at the time. And I remember once Mark had been at the auditions, they would go to the auditions and so forth to try to pick the ones that they wanted. And I remember the one younger kid, blonde-haired kid, I don't remember what his name was, but I remember Mark going right after him.
Do I remember the first time? Yeah, I do. He had picked me up at the studios and took me back to his house, and on the drive on the way back, he was asking me if I liked guys or if I liked girls. I said I liked girls, and he goes, okay, well, you know how you pick up girls is you put a sock in your pants to make your crotch look bigger. So when we got back to the house, he had gotten a sock and he would adjust it around and say, this is how it goes, like this, At one point he said, you know what, why don't you just take off your clothes and let me see what you look like. So I don't know why I did it, but I did, and he looked at me and goes, oh yeah. That night, he dressed me up in somebody else's clothes and wanted to take me out to dinner, and I wore a sock in my pants that night. He would take me to in his house. He had a movie theater in his house. We went into the movie theater. I don't remember how it was that he got me. He started doing what he was doing with me. I don't remember. My memories are of me like just sitting in there and being scared at first. We would sit in there and watch something, and then he would talk to me while he was doing it and say, this is nothing to worry about, don't be scared, it's completely normal. I remember being scared, and I remember him saying, come on, think about a girl that you really like. Think about a girl that you really like.
Standard, it's a good series right now, and hopefully, when I get older, do a lot of film work, try to make my way up, and hopefully catch a good TV series sometime, or internet series, which I'm on. So
we know that in child abuse, the power is tilted. You have an adult who's preying on the child, who is manipulating the child. They tell me in interviews that they're fearful of professional reprisals, and they're fearful of never working again.
He just showed me porn, and he told me, oh, these are clients having sex with their managers. These 60-year-old men having sex with 14-year-old clients. He just told me this is normal, like this goes on all the time. This is what you have to do. everybody does this. Everybody who manages children. And he would tell me that constantly. Oh, no, you like it. And at some points, I believed him. He would say, we could call him this guy. He would be glad to meet you. And he showed me this whole business of people that would be mad at me if I told anybody.
It is this added element where these young children are hoping to achieve a professional goal, which creates extra weight on the child. Should he or she be abused, it would make it more difficult for them to come forward in that circumstance.
Mark, he would sit down and say, oh, well, we're going to help you. I mean, you're a part of our group now. And I mean, anyone that's not a part of our group is basically on the dark side, and you want to be on our side. I mean, we control all of Hollywood. Basically, in essence, if you weren't with them, you didn't succeed, you had nothing, and he made that very clear in these sessions. Either you're a part of the group or you're a part of the dark side.
The sad part is, they can emotionally scar a child for life.
Man, I never would have guessed that Mr. Horton was, gay.
Well, he's not, Willis. That's the common fallacy about child molesters. They're not gay. They're only interested in little boys or little girls, not adults.
Look, I'm only 11 years old. Should I be hearing all of this?
I felt so much shame and guilt behind that secret that I held it for so long. Then I thought that and then you start thinking that all homosexuals are pedophiles. A guy's gay, he's a pedophile. I have to watch out for him. He may try to get me or something.
People should get this clear. These people are predators. They go after young boys, and they do it for their own reasons. So this has got nothing to do with being gay. This has got to be because they're evil people, and they particularly pick on people who they know will be victims. They're predators, until they are.
In the beginning, it was all happy-go-lucky, and then things started changing. He slowly became different on the phone.
That's how it came across to me. Something's wrong. Something's not going right, because I can tell when he's not 100% Mark. Suddenly, he's not so happy. Then suddenly he wants to come home. I never knew what that was about.
Hi.
Hi. How are you?
All right, shall we go in?
Your buddy's here.
Exactly.
Mr. Hubb.
Very excited. So have you been to this house before?
Yeah.
Isn't this awesome?
Never been to a party here, though.
You've never been
Have
to
you?
a party? Yes.
Some good ones?
Several.
Like, how crazy do they get?
They would have big parties very often. That's what the neighbors were complaining about, that they'd have all these cars blocking the sidewalk.
They would have valet service all set up out here, and this street would be lined with vehicles. Everyone was promoted to drink. I never had one drink ever before in my life until I was at that M&C estate. I don't ever recall ever drinking. 14 years old, it wasn't the top of my list.
There was an after party. Michael Egan, Brock Pierce, Chad Shackley, and Mark Collins Rector were present. Drugs were made available to us, including Quaaludes, Valium, Somas, Vicodin, Demerol, marijuana, ecstasy, and more. Brock Pierce and Mark Collins Rector tried to push me into taking these drugs. I refused. They then offered me cocktails, which I accepted. I believe that they laced my cocktail with ecstasy.
They would pull away the better-looking younger kids and keep them for their own after party, and it would turn into a pool party. And then they'd have their rules. Oh, there's no swimsuits on in the pool.
That was the rule. If you were staying at the mansion overnight, you had to go into the hot tub naked during their parties.
Everybody's at a normal party. Nobody had swimsuits.
And the parties were not just for the young boys and for their amusement. It was also a way to entice investors. And they got a lot of investors who would jump into the hot tub with these boys.
Gary Goddard was around. Bryan Singer was there. Here would come Bryan Singer naked getting in the hot tub, and then they'd make jokes of going and picking me up in the hot tub and setting me on Gary or Bryan's lap. And then he'd have Brock bringing in drinks and saying, oh, let's just relax and let's talk about what we're going to do. And I mean, Brock laughing that they had put pills in my drink or all kinds of different things. I remember waking up at certain times and not knowing where I was.
I was feeling very lightheaded, dizzy, and confused. Collins Rexter then told me I could go to sleep in his bed, but that if I went into his bed, I would have to strip naked. Collins Rexter then turned from being concerned and compassionate to forceful and threatening. I told him that I would not go to bed with him, to which he responded, well then, just don't worry about going into work tomorrow morning. I went to sit on the couch. At some point I passed out. When I awoke, I found myself in Mark's bed and completely naked with my clothes on the floor. Collins Rexter was in the bed and he was naked as well, with his arm around me. I am not sure of all the things that were done to me. However, I know that Collins Rexter drugged me and abused me. I immediately got out of bed, got dressed, went downstairs. I found Michael Egan sleeping on the couch and woke him, telling him I wanted to get out of this place.
I think the best way to describe this is a pedophile ring. That's what it was. Did all the investors know what was going on? Probably not. Did a lot of them suspect? Sure.
Hello, I'm Brian Singer, and you're watching Rollywood at www.den.net.
Brian Singer is a very prominent director in Hollywood. He's done some pretty major movies, The Usual Suspects, X-Men, X2, so there's been quite a lot of, you would recognize his work. What most people wouldn't recognize is some of the odd connections that seem to tie him to this world.
Your star, Pickle Boy.
Brian Peck, who was convicted of child molestation, worked for him on X-Men and did the commentary for X-Men with Brian Singer.
Hi, my name is Brian Singer, and I'm the director of X-Men.
I'm the other Brian Peck. I'm not the director of X-Men.
I've asked Brian if he would help me out here because I'm a little uncomfortable doing these things by myself. Now you're going to see something very exciting here. One is Stan Lee selling hot dogs. My buddy Gary Goddard was the guy walking alongside in the flannel shirt, and the guy eating hot dogs is you.
The fat guy in the Hawaiian shirt eating hot dogs. Hey, that's me. Thank you for, I'm on screen so long. Thank you.
You are. It's in fact, you are so imposing in the screen, people don't even see Stan Lee. I think the thing that appealed to me most about it was the idea that it was about anyone who feels disenfranchised, anyone who feels prejudice against them. I mean, it's really about a group of reluctant superheroes. Sort of their powers manifest at puberty, and they wake up one day and they're different from most of the people around them, and it's how they learn to embrace their extraordinary abilities and what's unique about them, and help defend a world that might at times condemn them.
A number of people I spoke to who put money in completely denied that anything untoward was going on there. And it was as though they were from the industrial home for the blind. I mean, if you see young men naked in a hot tub when you're having dinner, or you're having dinner with naked young boys, or young boys who are, inappropriately dressed for dinner, and unless you're deaf, dumb, and blind, you say, hey, this doesn't taste right. Something's wrong here. These are not Pollyannas. These are very smart guys. Hollywood doesn't have any system in place to protect anybody, and children are way down on that list, I can assure you.
In a Screen Actors Guild meeting, we were all serving on the Young Performers Committee at the time, which is a national committee at the Screen Actors Guild. And another parent brought a news article from the LA Times that described Bob Villard's arrest and the fact that the LA Police Department was looking for additional victims for Villard. And said, I request that SAG look into the idea of distributing this article or putting out an alert or something to their members, that it seems like something that's a safety related thing that maybe we should let everyone know. And Michael Hara had a very odd reaction that day. He vehemently opposed SAG getting involved. Hara did not feel that SAG should be stepping forward, even in the wake of the LA Police Department asking for more victims. So the SAG did not step forward and send that news out that day.
Well, I don't know that we've hidden them. I would think you would want to not hide it, but you would want to protect the child whose identity is going to come out the more you play it out. A situation like this never helps anybody. And yes, the sooner we can get it under control, the better. But the less the child has to live with the stigma of it having happened, I think it's better for them, not only career-wise, but personally.
It's why people don't report, because they know that even if they are believed, they're afraid that something will happen to their kid's career. There are people who don't want this out. The studios work to make sure this isn't very public. Brian Peck moved to Nickelodeon and coached on almost all their shows, really. It was one of those shows where he befriended a pretty major child actor. That child was abused by Brian Peck. He came forward and filed criminal charges against Brian Peck. And Brian Peck almost immediately pled guilty. Clearly he didn't want an investigation to continue, or clearly the studio didn't want an investigation to continue. The victim has chosen to
Well, if you are still tuning in, I'd like to thank you for your time. Now we are going to get into the gematria. This is the best part of the video. A lot of names are going to be spoken, folks. So please have a seat and pick your chin up from the ground. So let's get into it. Sound of Freedom, Hebrew gematria 620, English gematria 960, simple gematria 160, which connects to understanding, which connects to Barack Hussein Obama, which connects to free from sea to shining California, right? Which connects to Sound of Freedom, Hebrew gematria 620. We have Realize, which connects to Sound of Freedom, Hebrew gematria 620. We have Sound of Freedom, Hebrew gematria 620, which connects to Teleportation. We have Nasum Dorma, right? Hebrew gematria 620, which connects to Sound of Freedom, Hebrew gematria 620. We have Fez Hat, Hebrew gematria 620, which connects to Sound of Freedom, Hebrew gematria 620. We have Out of Sight, Hebrew gematria 620, which connects to Sound of Freedom, Hebrew gematria 620. Now remember, folks, the names that I call out, a lot of these names you can just go ahead and implement into the movie Sound of Freedom, right? Because this is what they into. We have next Operation Rose, Hebrew gematria 620, which connects to Sound of Freedom, Hebrew gematria 620. Now, Operation Rose is a non-profit organization preventing and combating human trafficking in the United States. We have next Lost Soul, Hebrew gematria 620, which connects to Sound of Freedom, Hebrew gematria 620. We have next Anita Marie Pointer, She is one of the Pointer Sisters, American songwriter. Hebrew Gematria 620, which connects to Sound of Freedom. Hebrew Gematria 620. Now, I'm not saying that she participated in the acts, right? But I will say people in Hollywood, they know what's going on. So if you haven't came out and spoke about it, you are guilty as charged, guilty by association. Hebrew Gematria, Anita Marie Pointer 620, which connects to Sound of Freedom. Hebrew Gematria 620. We have Train Station. Could this be a way that they transport the kids? Hebrew Gematria 620, Train Station, which connects to Sound of Freedom. Hebrew Gematria 620. We have Black Pyramid. Hebrew Gematria 620, which connects to Sound of Freedom. Hebrew Gematria 620. We have Tucker Carlson, right? Now I know that Tucker Carlson is very aware of what's going on. We need people to speak out about these heinous crimes, crimes taken against humanity, especially against our children, right? We need to call them out. Tucker Carlson, it's time to stand up. The time is now. We have Tucker Carlson, Hebrew Gematria 682, but it's connected to Sound of Freedom by the way of English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have next, Los Angeles Rams. We're gonna see a lot of stadiums or a lot of football teams being brought up here under the Gematria, under Sound of Freedom. And I'm thinking that there's a lot of underground tunnels, right, that are connected to these stadiums that transport these kids. We have English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. The time is now. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. Never Forgiven, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, right? The names that are being called out in this Gematria, names that are not being called out but are connected to these acts, yes, you will never be forgiven. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have next, big changes are coming. English Gematria 397, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have Pay Attention, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have Hillary Clinton, right, Never Forgiven, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have Rose Quartz, right? The Rose Quartz represent a deep inner healing because exactly that's what we need as a nation, as a people, right? As humanity, we need a deep inner healing for all the atrocities that's been taking place, right? So we have Rose Quartz, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. And the way that we get this deep inner healing, we have to turn back to the Creator, Yah, right? We have connected to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, right? We have Power Mad Sadism, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have Stephen Hawkins, right, who is an English physicist, right? English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have assassination. Please, there's probably gonna be a lot of assassination attempts from people who are speaking out against this cause, right? So be aware and let Yah be your rock. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, assassination, which is connected to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have Helga Rosina Bayer, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, right? We have Clint Eastwood, which is connected to Sound of Freedom by the way of English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have Project Serpo, right, which is a top secret human exchange program, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have next Timothy Paul, who is a writer, which connects to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. See, if you know about these things, folks, and if you haven't spoke spoke out against it, see, you are guilty as charged, guilty by association. Let's continue. This is not a game. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have next Anne Louise Logan, which connects to Sound of Freedom. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have next Project Monarch, which is MK Ultra. This is how they're able to groom and control the minds of the little children that they have here. You know, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have next exclamation mark, which connects to English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, right? And takes you back to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have next Detroit Lions, right? Here we go again. You know, you gotta understand, this is the stadium, folks. I really do think that they have underground tunnels, right? English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have Economic Collapse, which connects to Sound of Freedom, right? This is a timeline identification mark. See, people got to understand that a lot of things are taking place around the time that certain things are happening. So what I'm talking about is we have the dropping of Sound of Freedom, and then we have other things around the timeline that are taking place. And one of the things that are going to take place real soon is the economic collapse of the United States of America. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. And this is another timeline identification mark that I'm talking about. We have Kiki, right? Keke Palmer. So we understand that we've seen her at the time of this dropping of this movie, right? What I mean by seeing her, this whole ordeal with her and her husband. So this is another timeline identification mark, right? We have Hebrew Gematria 620, which connects to Sound of Freedom, Hebrew Gematria 620. We have Sound of Freedom, Hebrew Gematria 620, which connects to questioning, because there's a lot of questions that need to be asked, and there's a lot of questions that need to be answered, right? People need to be held accountable for what has been happening to the children of the earth, right? Yah's children are not for sale, right? We have Kyle Reese, Hebrew Gematria 620. Right? We all know Kyle Reese played in the Terminator, and he was the resistant soldier, right? Now, I don't know if the person that actually played this character is a true resistant soldier, but we do know this character, right, is representing, right? So we have to have a resistance to things that are going on, like we see here in Sound of Freedom. Hebrew Gematria 620, which connects to Kyle Reese, Hebrew Gematria of Sound of Freedom 620. Next we have Soul Lost, Hebrew Gematria 620, which connects to Sound of Freedom, Hebrew Gematria 620. We have Sound of Freedom, Hebrew Gematria 620, which connects to Big Cities. Next we have Michelle May Medina, who is the Associate Chief of Clinical Operations within the Cleveland Clinical Community Health. Hebrew Gematria 620, which connects to Sound of Freedom, Hebrew Gematria 620. And like I said earlier, folks, if you haven't spoke out about the atrocities, and if you're in leadership and you know about these things, right, you are guilty as charged. That's all I'm saying, okay? I'm not saying everybody, and particularly, especially those who are not in the industry, right, for like a person like this, right, it's possible that she could know about it and that she's doing things, you know, to help. But only time will tell, you know? But if not, blood on their hands. Let's continue. Danny Danon, which is the 17th permanent representative, right, of the United Nations. Now, this is one person we can say guilty as charged, because we know people in the United Nations, we know what they're about. Well, I know what they're about. I don't know if you know what they're about, but I know what they're about. You know what I'm saying? Guilty as charged. Danny Danon. Here we go. Hebrew Gematria 620, which connects to Sound of Freedom, Hebrew Gematria 620. We next have Gangster Disciples. Now, I'm not talking about you low-level GDs, right? But your leaders, your top leaders, yeah, they're connected to things that go on with in Sound of Freedom, right? Hebrew Gematria 620, right? GDs, Gangster Disciple. Yeah, I said it, you know what I'm saying? Y'all need to destroy that whole doggone gang, right? Let's continue. Cloning, Hebrew Gematria 620, right? She is a Lebanese British barrister, right? She's a lawyer, and she deals with superior court cases. Now, I would like to believe that she's on the side of righteousness, but at this point in time, you know what I'm saying, it's really hard to believe who really is, you know what I'm saying? But only time will tell if they're going to step out and do the right thing, because I know very well she knows about this and knows about the trafficking of young children within the United States and all across the world. We have Hebrew Gematria 620, which connects to Sound of Freedom, Hebrew Gematria 620, Amal Clooney. Next we have United Airlines, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. You already know what they do, right? It's a given. Next we have Jimmy Oswald, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to I do apologize, Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have next, Chamber of Secrets, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which is a Harry Potter kids movie. Make the connection, right? Kids movie, Chambers of Secrets, connected to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have next Greenwich Village, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, right? Greenwich Village is one of the first gay communities in New York. And understand what they tell you in a parade. We are coming for your children. Connected to Sound of Freedom's English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. Next we have Machine Gun Kelly, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which is connected to Sounds of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. If you know about it and if you haven't spoke about it, you are guilty as charged, guilty by association. Next we have Lewis Hamilton, which is a British car driver, professional, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which is connected to Machine Gun Kelly, Chambers of Secrets, all the way back up to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have next Operation Legend, which is a federal law enforcement operation which was mandated by Donald Trump over a 4-year-old child who was shot and killed. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. Good job, President Trump. Here we go. Babylon is falling, and I'll say it again, Babylon is falling. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Economic Collapse, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have next, It's Showtime, which connects to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, right? It's showtime. The time is now, folks. You know what I mean? You got to wake up and realize, you know, what's going on in the world today. We have Ariana Grande, is an American singer, right, who's connected to Sound of Freedom, guilty as charged. If you know about it and haven't spoke about it, you're going to pay about it, right? Here we go. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which is connected to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. Next, we have Rolling Stone, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Ariana Grande, all the way back up to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have next here, Hunger Projects, right? You already know, if you don't know, but we have a situation with the grain, situation with Russia. Okay? People, wake up, folks. We're getting into some turbulent times here, right? We have Hunger Projects, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which is connected to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. Once again, like another timeline, right, of what's going on around the time that this movie had presented itself. Go check out the situation with the grain, situation with Russia and America, and how that's going to affect America. Let's continue. We have the Rag Rippers, or the Rippers Rag, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. Go do your research. Connected to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have Brandon Dixon, right? Brandon Dixon is a baseball infielder for San Diego, right? One of them San Diego professional baseball teams. English Gematria 620, Simple Gematria, Hebrew Gematria 620, which connects to Sound of Freedom, Hebrew Gematria 620. And like I said earlier, folks, if they haven't spoke about it, because I know they know about it, so guilty as charged. guilty by association. I'm not playing with none of these people, right? Next we have Mallory Beach. Now Mallory Beach, go look it up. She was killed, right? Was abducted. Just go do the research. But it's coming up under Sounds of Freedom. Hebrew Gematria 620, Mallory Beach, which connects to Sound of Freedom, Hebrew Gematria 620. Go do the research on Mallory Beach, please, right? So next we have I Am Taking High Ground, right? And so that's what we expect for all the righteous people of the earth, is to take the moral high ground, right? We need to stand up. We can't allow this any longer. Hebrew Gematria 620, which connects to Sound of Freedom, Hebrew Gematria 620. We have next, Restoring the Lamb, Hebrew Gematria 620, which connects to Sound of Freedom, Hebrew Gematria 620. We have next, Patriots Fight, Hebrew Gematria 620, which connects to Sound of Freedom, Hebrew Gematria 620. We have Las Vegas Raiders. Once again, I think this is tied to the stadium and how it is possibly underground tunnels. That's all I'm gonna say, underground tunnels. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. Next we have All Will Be Revealed, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. Now isn't this what Yah is doing, revealing all to the people, right? The veil has been pulled back, right? The curtain has been pulled back, right? Next we have Mark My Words, right? All will be revealed, Mark My Words, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. Next we have Little Boy Blue. Go listen to the song by Shaka Khan, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which is connected to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have next Guilty as Charged, which connects to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have next They Got Caught, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have The Rainbow Bridge, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have Summer Wells, right? Who was abducted from her home in Tennessee. Matter of fact, I think I got this young lady mixed up with the last young lady, but she was killed. But just go do the research on Mallory Beach. We have Summer Wells, who was abducted from her home in Tennessee, June 15, 2023, right? English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. It's a possibility this is what Summer Wells had to deal with, right? What the kids are dealing with right here in Sound of Freedom. Once again, I say Sound of Freedom, right? Connected to Summer Wells, Hebrew Gematria 1470, but connected by the way of English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have Truth Central, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Summer Wells, which connects to They Got Caught, which connects to Guilty as Charged, which connects to All Will Be Revealed, Mark My Words, all the way back up to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have Paul Pelosi, DUI, Paul Pelosi, DUI. Go check it out, folks, right? Because if you got that DUI the way he got that DUI, you wouldn't have got the time that he got. But anyway, let's go. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Paul Pelosi DUI, to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. And I do believe that he either participates in the Sound of Freedom ways or at minimum knows, right? And like I said earlier, guilty as charged, right? Guilty by association if you haven't spoke up about it. We have next here, Albert Simmons, who is the LSU coach, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have next Elizabeth Holmes, who is an American former biotechnology entrepreneur, right? And she's connected to fraud. shot. Imagine that. And she's connected to Sound of Freedom by the way of English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. Go check out the movie The Contractor, right? English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. Next we have Sound of Freedom, which connects to Dark Money. Next we have Sound of Freedom, which connects to Erykah Lombardi, Looks Like a Dog. Hebrew Gematria 620, right? Now we have Inside the Storm, Hebrew Gematria 620, which is connected to Sound of Freedom. Hebrew Gematria 620. We are inside the storm, folks. We have next Kurt Smith, who is a British songwriter. Hebrew Gematria 620, which connects to Sound of Freedom. Once again, if you know about it and haven't spoke about it, then you must be about it, right? Guilty as charged. Guilty by association. Let's continue. More neighbor spies. We can continue. Absolute chaos. Hebrew Gematria 620, which is connected to Sound of Freedom. Hebrew Gematria 620. We have next Boulder, Colorado. English Gematria 960. Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom. Hebrew Gematria 160. I'm sorry, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have now Hollywood Land, which connects to Sound of Freedom by the way of English Gematria 960 and Simple Gematria 160. We have John Paul Jones, right, who's an American Navy officer, right, going back down to like the Revolutionary, right, way back then. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which is connected to what? Sound of Freedom. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have Active Shooter. A lot of these kids, you know what I'm saying, who are controlled by the MK Ultra, they grow up to be used in many different purposes. And one of the purposes that they can be used by the way of being active shooters. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have Tommy Hilfiger. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have Antonio Brown. You already know who he is. You don't need no introduction. English Gematria 960, right? Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. And like I said before, now you might not have done anything, but if you haven't spoke about it, if you haven't talked about it, then you must be about it. Guilty as charged. Guilty by association. Next we have Secret Reality. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Antonio Brown, Tommy Hilfiger, Hollywood Land, right? All the way back up to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. Next we have Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, which connects it to distribution. And I'll say it again. We have distribution. Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom. Simple Gematria 160. Sound of Freedom, which connects to distribution by the way of English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. Can't get around it, folks. Next we have Ashley Jade Parks, who is an actor, right? Actress. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. You already know connects to Sound of Freedom. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. Can't get around, folks. Names are just coming out. Big names, big names. We didn't even hit the big names yet, but just names are rolling out. Let's continue. We have Pack the Court. Hebrew Gematria 620, which connects to Sound of Freedom. Hebrew Gematria 620. Now, excuse the language, but we have Sound of Freedom, Hebrew Gematria 620, which connects to Suck Large Penis. Disgusting. We have next Sound of Freedom, Hebrew Gematria 620, which connects to Best Programmer, right? Because the folks that are participating in these atrocities, they are some of the best programmers, mind programmers that we are dealing with at this time, right? All I'll say. Next, we have Considerable Concerns. Hebrew Gematria 620 connects to Sound of Freedom, Hebrew Gematria 620. And if you don't have considerable concerns about what's going on, or about what you've seen in this movie, you need to ask God for forgiveness. Seriously, you just need to ask Him for forgiveness. You know what I mean? But those who have taken part in these actions, you'll never be forgiven. So let's continue. Next we have Force the RFID Chip Camp. Hebrew Gematria 620, Simple Gematria 205, right? But it connects to Sound of Freedom by the way of Hebrew Gematria 620. And possibly this could be coming in very soon due to a lot of things that's getting ready to take place here in this country. We have next, Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to The Lost Boys. We have next, Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, C-U-M, Intensely. Next we have Tribulations, which connects to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. Next we have Alabama Crimson Tide. Once again, I think this is dealing with stadiums and having underground stadiums and using these underground passageways to transport, you know what I'm saying, sounds of freedom. I'll just say it like that because I don't want to take a strike, but we're going to continue. We have Dr. Stephen Greer, who's a UFOologist, right? Connected to Sound of Freedom by the way of English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have Outer Course, which connects to Sound of Freedom, right? By the way of English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have next Stephen Breyer, right? Who's a former Associate Justice of the Supreme Court of the United States of America, who's connected to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. If you haven't spoke about it, if you haven't talked about it, you must be about it. Guilty as charged, guilty by association. Next we have Leon Russell, Hebrew Gematria 620, which connects to Sound of Freedom, Hebrew Gematria 620, right? Leon Russell is an American musician, and like I just said, if you haven't spoke about it, talked about it, you must be about it. Guilty by association, guilty as charged. Now we have Prairie Home Companion, and I say Prairie Home Companion, Hebrew Gematria 620, which connects to Leon Russell, Stephen Breyer, Dr. Stephen Greer, right? Connected to all these other names. So you gotta understand the prairie on the hill, right? So all we're just saying this is a home on the hill, the Prairie Home Companion. So this is a home on the hill that has companions. And who are the companions, or who are the people that's being talked about in Sounds of Freedom, right? We know that these are kids. So we understand that the Prairie Home Companion is kids. Hebrew Gematria 620, which connects to Sound of Freedom, Hebrew Gematria 620. This is why we have next here, Sound of Freedom. I mean, you just can't make it up, folks, right? Right after Digital Artists, we have the Fall of the USA, right? I mean, right after that, we have the Fall of the USA, Hebrew Gematria 620, which connects to Digital Artists, right? Because we're in that timeline, folks, right? We see that the Sound of Freedom dropped, and then we see now the artists are out here protesting about the digital AI that's going to cause them to lose revenue, right? So what we're doing here is we're painting a timeline, right? We're painting a picture for you to understand that the fall of the USA is here. Babylon has fall, right? The fall of the USA, Hebrew Gematria 620, which connects to the Sound of Freedom, Hebrew Gematria 620. You can't lie, folks, we are here. Ashley Grace, right, who is an actress and model. She is connected to Sound of Freedom by the way of Hebrew Gematria 620. We have Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Stop the Steal, right? We know what's going on. Stop the steal. Understand it. Let's just stop. We have next here, Larry Ellison. Who is Larry Ellison? Chief Technology Officer of Oracle. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which is connected to Sounds of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have next, Dr. Strangelove. Now, who is Dr. Strange? Well, if you've seen some of my videos back before they took my last page down, Dr. Strange is Dr. Fauci. That is his code name. So we have Dr. Strangelove. We all know Dr. Strangelove, you know, the little ones, you know what I'm saying? He loved to protect the little ones, if you understand what I mean, right? So we have English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. Next we have Javier Torres. Javier Torres is a former high-ranking leader of the Sinaloa cartel. And I say it again, Javier Torres is a former high-ranking leader of the Sinaloa cartel. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, right, which connects to Sounds of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. Yes, folks, these cartel leaders and gangs, they are with and they are in cahoots with the leaders of the world to help them traffic women and kids. Most definitely. Can't get around it. Let's continue. We have Jason Orendorff, right, who is the owner of JavaScript, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which is connected to Sounds of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. Guilty as charged, guilty by association, can't get around it. As well as Javier Torres, guilty by charge, guilty as associated, guilty, 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 guilty. We are all connected. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which is connected to Javier Torres, Jason Orendorff, Dr. Strange, which is Dr. Fauci, Ashley Grace, you know what I mean, Hillary Clinton, you know what I'm saying, Dr. Stephen Greer, Stephen Breyer, I mean, all the other names that I said before that, all the way up to Sounds of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have Sam Anderson, right, who is an American actor, right, who played Forrest Gump, guilty, 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 guilty. Hebrew Gematria 620, which connects to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 620. We have next, Ashley Bond, Hebrew Gematria 620, which connects to Sound of Freedom, Hebrew Gematria 620. We have Lakeisha, Darlene, Carol, Hebrew Gematria 620, which connects to Sound of Freedom, Hebrew Gematria 620. If you haven't spoke about it, if you haven't talked about it, you must be about it. Guilty as charged, guilty by association. Take out all that's all it says, but you already know what comes at the end. Trash, right? Sounds of Freedom, which connects to take out all the English Gematria 906, Simple Gematria 151, but connects to it by Hebrew Gematria 620, right? We have next, the smell of spring. Could it be? I don't know. You tell me. Hebrew Gematria 620, which connects to Sound of Freedom. Hebrew Gematria 620. Take out all the smell of spring. Next we have Sound of Freedom. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Devil Worship. Next we have Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Pfizer Data Dump. We have Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Bitter Waters. We have next, Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Seed of Satan and Eve. We have next, Water Drought, right? And possibly, you know, it could be happening very soon, folks. Hebrew Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom. Hebrew Gematria 1535, but connects to it by the way of English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. Now, you understand how hot it's been, and I was talking to one of my neighbors not too long ago, and we were both agreeing on that this is possibly due to the Fukushima reactors that they are putting in the sea now, into the actual ocean. You hear what I'm saying? And there's been reports of animals, you know what I'm saying, that's been in the sea that we've never seen before, that's coming from the depths of the sea, right? Because of these nuclear reactors that's being let into the water, right? Killing all the life forms in the ocean, you see? And so with this nuclear situation going on in Fukushima, it will also cause our environment to become that much more hotter, right? Which would put us into a major drought. Well, let's continue. We have Sarah Silverman, right? English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to American comedian. Can't get around it. See, if you know about it and have a spoke about it, you must be about it. Guilty as charged, guilty by association. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. Next we have Wayne Roney right? Who is an English football manager, right? A soccer. You know, we say football, they say football out there, we say soccer out here, right? But he's an English football manager, Wayne Rooney, right? Wayne Rooney, English gematria 960, simple gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom, English gematria 960, simple gematria 160. See, I said it before and I continue to say it, right? If you know about it, and if you haven't spoke out about it, you must be about it. Guilty as charged, guilty by association. Next we have Luciferian Masons, which connects to Sound of Freedom by the way of English gematria 960, simple gematria 160. Next we have I Am Setting Elect Free, praise Jah, right? Next we have Israel Key, Hebrew gematria 620, which connects to Sound of Freedom, Hebrew gematria 620. See, this is other things that's going on in this timeline. I don't think people understand what's really, really, truly going on. You see what I'm saying? The Most High said, I am setting the elect free. And next we have Israel Key, right? Just hold on to that. Just hold on to that. Next we have Prince Hassan bin Talal, right? Right, he's a prince of the royal Jordanian family, connected to Sounds of Freedom, right? Hebrew gematria 620, right? Now I say it again. See, if you know about it and haven't spoke about it, you must be about it. Then you're guilty by association, guilty as charged. Now set me straight. Let me know if you out here setting up operations. Because see, if I was a prince, if I was a king, if I understood these things, I would set things in place and make sure we eradicate all this mess. Praise Yah. But let's continue, right? We said, I am setting the elect free, Israel Key, and now we have God of the Hebrews. Praise Yah. We have English gematria 960, simple gematria 160, which connects to Israel Key, which connects to I am setting elect free, right? Next we have For I Am With Thee, English gematria 960, simple gematria 160, which connects to the God of the Hebrews, which connects to Israel Key, which connects to I am setting elect free. Next we have Steven Jackson, English gematria 960, simple gematria 160, who is an American baseball player, right? So once again, right, Steven Jackson, if you know about it, if you haven't talked about it, right, if you haven't aired them out, guilty as charged, guilty by association. You hear what I'm saying? Next we have Death Caused by Sin, which connects to English gematria Steven Jackson, English gematria 960, simple gematria 160, which would connect to Wayne Rooney, right? English gematria 960, simple gematria 160, right? Which connect to all those names beforehand, which connects to, you know what I'm saying, the God of the Hebrew, because he's the one that's going to cause that death by sin. Next we have Sound of Freedom, English gematria 960, simple gematria 160, which connects to Nudist Militia. We have Wallace D. Fard, or Wallace Fard Muhammad, English gematria 960, simple gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom, English gematria 960, simple gematria 160. We have next Marty Smith. Marty was a young boy Marty is a young boy who could be easily manipulated, right? Marty is like a Marty Smith. He's a character. Marty Smith is a character who can easily be manipulated, a young boy, right? And so Marty comes up under this Sound of Freedom. Why? Because this is who they go for. They go for the young ones that they can manipulate. English gematria 960, simple gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom. English gematria 960, simple gematria 160. We have next here, scary tactics, right? The Marty Smith is a scary tactic, understanding that they prey on our young ones who can easily be manipulated, and they use very scary tactics. English gematria 960, simple gematria 160, which connects to Marty Smith, which connects to Nudist Militia, which connects to all the names that I mentioned, right? All the way back up to Sound of Freedom, English gematria 960, simple gematria 160. We have next Justin Welby. Who is Justin Welby? Well, he's a British bishop, right? Member of the Lords of the United Kingdom, right? English gematria 960, simple gematria 160, who is connected to Sounds of Freedom, English gematria 960, simple gematria 160. If you know know about it, haven't spoke about it, you are guilty as charged, guilty by association. You must be about it, right? We have Lance Armstrong. We all know who Lance Armstrong is, don't need no introduction. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sounds of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, right? Need no introduction, guilty as charged. If you know about it, if you haven't talked about it, you must be about it, guilty. Next we have George Derby, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 160, Simple Gematria, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. Next we have Human Invasion, right? Sound of Freedom, which connects to Human Invasion by the way of English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. Next we have Odin Thoughts, right? Hebrew Gematria 666, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have True Knowledge, which connects to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. Next we have Brandon Wilson, right, which connects to Sound of Freedom by the way of English Gematria 960 and Simple Gematria 160. Brandon Wilson is a football player. He is a safety. Like I said earlier, if you know about it, haven't spoke about it, you must be about it. Guilty as charged, guilty by association. Next we have Sound of Freedom, Hebrew Gematria 620, which connects to Mecca, child, sex, sin. And I say it again, Mecca, child, sex, sin, connected to Sound of Freedom by the way of Hebrew Gematria 620. And everything else that I said beforehand. But you guys already know this, but let's continue. We have Operation Godspeed, Hebrew Gematria 620, which connects to Sound of Freedom, Hebrew Gematria 620. We have next, Rappers Satanic, Hebrew Gematria 620, which connects to Sound of Freedom, Hebrew Gematria 620. We have next, The Defeat of Jezebel. And I'll say it again, 2 more times. The Defeat of Jezebel. The Defeat of Jezebel. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have next, The Throne of God. We have next, Democrat Crazies, right? We have Democrats Crazy Stick Together, which connects to Sound of Freedom. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have next, Divine Leadership. We have next, Genetic Memories. We have next, Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to God Always Win. I don't know what you guys thought. Next we have Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Ritual Murderer. We have next, Shit Triggers Me, English Gematria 1062, Simple Gematria 177, but connects to Sounds of Freedom by the way of Hebrew Gematria 620. Yeah, because if this shit don't trigger you, you need help. You need help. You know, and the things that need to happen, you can't even say on YouTube. You know, DP, and I ain't talking about the usual DP. But let's continue. We have Sound of Freedom, Hebrew Gematria 620, which connects to a dragon brotherhood. And I'll say it again, Sounds of Freedom, which connects to a dragon brotherhood by the way of Hebrew Gematria 620. We have Sound of Freedom, Hebrew Gematria 620, all humans sacrifice. That's what they would want to do, right? So they can have AI and all the robots, you know what I'm saying, do their bid, right? While they enjoy the fruits of the earth, you hear what I'm saying? But Yah is not allowing that to happen because Yah owns all. But let's continue. Next we have Sound of Freedom, Hebrew Gematria 620, which connects to he, the chance to confess, right? So this is why I keep saying, if you know about it, and if you haven't spoke about it, you must be about it, guilty as charged, guilty by association, you know what I'm saying? You have your chance to speak out now. We need folks to speak up. Continue, let's go. We have Disney layoffs. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. And if I'm not mistaken, right, I could be wrong, but I'm not mistaken, they just had a bunch of layoffs, right? If I'm wrong, I might be wrong, but I could have sworn I seen that somewhere, that Disney had a bunch of layoffs. But once again, this shows you the timeline that we in, folks, right? We can't deny it. Can't get around it. This is why Yah says turn to him. Because big changes are coming. The USA has fallen. Babylon has fallen. Let's continue. President Bush, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. Guilty, 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 guilty. Next we have Tyler the Creator, right? English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. Really it says Tyler Creator, but we all know him as Tyler the Creator. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. Now I can't say that he's not a victim of the situation, because there's many entertainers right in the industry that has fell victim to this whole society, right? So they came in as young children, they were raped and they were abused, and they've grown to be the men that they are now, and unfortunately they are living out their lives in what they know, right? So a lot of my heart goes out to a lot of these kids that were raised into the situation, but unfortunately, if you have carried on these things, and if you haven't spoke about these things, you are guilty as charged, guilty by association, guilty, guilty, guilty. Because you've carried on to stay in the industry. You carried on not to open up your mouth and to help the others not be abused, you see? Because there were more that was coming after you. Although there was more before you, there were many more that were coming after you. You see, we need people to stand strong, you see what I'm saying? So other people don't fall victim, you know what I'm saying, to this wickedness, to this devil worshipness that's going on in Hollywood. But let's continue. Next we have Henry Anderson, right, who is a football player. Once again, if you know about it, haven't talked about it, it must be about it, guilty by association, guilty as charged. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. Now we have Ice Cream Nancy, right? We know that as Nancy Pelosi. We know how she like her ice cream. So we have Sound of Freedom, who's connected to our politician, Nancy Ice Cream Pelosi. Hebrew Gematria 620, right? Can't get around it. Guilty, guilty, guilty. It's true. Ha 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 ha. Hebrew Gematria 620, which connects to Ice Cream Nancy, all the way back up to Sound of Freedom. Hebrew Gematria 620. Now we have Rob Gray, who's a basketball player, connected. If you know about it, haven't talked about it, you must be about it. Next we have sodomite means cannibal, right? Because these people who's dealing with these children, they are straight sodomites. Simple as that. Next we have something big dropped, right? Woo! Man, if this movie wasn't big, I don't know what was. But there's other big things coming though, folks. But most definitely, this was something that was dropped. Big time. Hebrew Gematria 620. Simple Gematria 206. Which connects to Sound of Freedom. We have next few weeks. English Gematria 960. Simple Gematria 160. Right? We have Davidic Dynasty. Yes, I do represent the Davidic dynasty, folks. You can't get around it. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to gives blowjobs. Next we have Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, pleasurable sex. Next we have Sounds of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to pleasure trips, right? So on these pleasure trips, they're pleasurable sex and they get blowjobs for individuals that you see in Sound of Freedom. Can't get around it, folks. Next we have God Kills Devils, and we see why, right? English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. Next we have Long Live Israel, right? Praise Yah, we are on the rise, right? English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom, right? English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. Soon, Yah is going to bring us home, right? And Yah is going to build his kingdom. So let's continue. Messages Revealed, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Long Live Israel, God Kills Devils, right? All the way back up to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have Pope Benedict XV, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. Guilty, 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 right? Connects to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have Rectum Love God, right? Connected to Pope Benedict XV. Connected to, you know what I'm saying, pleasure trip, pleasurable sex, give blowjobs. All the way back up to sodomite means cannibal, right? All the way back up to Ice Cream Nancy. All the way back, let's get some names here. Henry Anderson, right? Let's get some no names in here. Stephen Jackson, let's get some more names in here. Sarah Silverman, right? Let's get some more names in here. Prince Hassan, right? Ashley Bond, right? Lakeisha Darling, right? Let's get some more names in here. Doggone it. Sam Anderson, Stephen Breyer. I mean, there's more names to come. Dr. Strange, Dr. Stephen Greer, you know what I'm saying? Doggone, who else is here? Let's see. We have, let's keep going now. We have Antonio, right? We have Ashley J. Baker. We have John Paul Jones, right? We have Hollywood Land. I mean, that consists of all them clowns, but let's keep going, right? We have Mary Silver, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, who is a biological scientist, right? Connected to Sounds of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. If you know about it, haven't talked about it, you must be about it. Guilty by association, guilty as charged, guilty, guilty, guilty. We have next, The Sacrifice of Isaac, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. Yes, folks, this is a big sacrifice if you really don't understand. A big sacrifice. Sounds of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to principalities. We have next, Sounds of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, criminal actions. And that's for all of those names that I've listed. If you know about it, having spoke about it, you must be about it. So you're with the criminal actions, guilty by association, guilty as charged. We have Ruben Castillo. Ruben Castillo, former judge of United States District, Hebrew Gematria 620, which connects to criminal actions, which connects to everything that I said all the way up until his name, right? So all the way back up to Sounds of Freedom, Hebrew Gematria 620. And like I've been saying, and I will continue to say, if you know about it and haven't said anything about it, you must be about it. Guilty as charged. Guilty, 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 guilty. Next we have Satanic Principles, Hebrew Gematria 620, which connects to Ruben Castillo, right? Which connects to principalities, which connects to criminal actions, all the way back up to the Sound of Freedom, Hebrew Gematria 620. We have the Most High Leaders. Now, this is not talking about the Most High Yah. No, this is talking about the Most High Leaders of the world are connected to this madness, are connected to Sounds of Freedom, Hebrew Gematria 620. And I say it again, the Most High Leaders. Now, not the most high leaders of the most high creator. No, we talking about the most high leaders of the earth are connected to sounds of freedoms. Hebrew Gematria 620. You can't get around it. We have they're all frauds, right? The most high leaders, they're all frauds. Hebrew Gematria 620. This is why I said, when it said the most high leaders, it's not talking about the most high creator leaders. It's talking about the most high leaders of the planet are all connected to the trafficking of our They are all frauds. Hebrew Gematria 620, which connects to sound of freedom. This is why it says next, Alistair. You already know who Alistair is, Aleister Crowley, right? So we have Alistair. Hebrew Gematria 620, which connects to they are all frauds. Who are all the frauds that this is talking about? The most high leaders, not the most high creator, but the most high leaders of the earth. They are all frauds. They are satanic worshipers, right? This is why it has satanic principle, the most high leaders, they're all frauds. Alistair, you can't get around it. Next we have the Gabino family. The Gabino family, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 1060, which connects to Alistair, which connects to they're all frauds, which connects to the most high leaders, which connects to satanic principles, which connects to sound of freedom by the way of English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have next the Truth Beacon, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We gonna let that light shine, folks. But let's continue. We have Tyler Sanders, who is an actor, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We already know what he's about, right? If you know about it, having talked about it, you must be about it. So you're guilty by association, guilty as charged, connected to sounds of freedom by the way of English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have sounds of freedom, which connects to see being no greater sacrifice. Connected Hebrew Gematria 620, right? There's been no greater sacrifice than the sacrifice of our children. We see that going back to the times of the Old Testament, to the times of Molech, right? You know what I'm saying? It's always been a ritual to sacrifice children. You hear what I'm saying? No more. But let's continue. We have sound of freedom, Hebrew Gematria 620, which connects to fear-based mind control. We have next, unjust laws, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to sound of freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. And you see the unjust laws that started to roll in behind our children, right? Because of what's going on in the trafficking industry, right? And a lot of these people, or most of these people, are the most high leaders. And I say it again, not the most high leaders of the most high of the earth, but the most high leaders. I'm sorry, not the most leaders, the most high leaders of the most high that created the earth, but these are the most high leaders of the earth. Okay? If you understand. But let's continue. We have Vincent Jackson, who was a football player. If you know about it, haven't talked about it, you must be about it. Guilty by association, guilty by charge. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to sound of freedom. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have next here, who's that? Colin James Blackman, right? Who's a Canadian blues. Next, we have Colin James Blackman, which connects to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. Now, Colin James Blackman, he's a Canadian blues rock singer. Next, we have Holy Light Ray, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. I am Ray. Let's continue. We have Laura Ann Patrick, which connects to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have Ayman Dominguez, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have Kim Young Jung, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have Pete Townsend, who is a musician, right? English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. Now, you know, I want to go back to Kim Jong-un, right? You know, his connection with Dennis Rodman I always found kind of odd, but I won't get into that, but let's continue. You know, who knows? I just hope he's on the right side. But it does say all the high leaders. Some things that make you go, But we have next, the human apiary, right? So apiary is where they keep beehives, right? So this is the human apiary. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have Andrew D. Taylor, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. Andrew D. Taylor is the Director of Science of Technology. We have next, Ashley De La Cruz, who is an American model, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have I Am the Messenger. Speaking of me, I Am the Messenger, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have Evelyn Van Zant, right, who is an American inspirational speaker. So I know I'm chopping her name. So let me just spell it: LYANLAVANZANT. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. She is an American inspirational speaker, but she is connected to Sounds of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. I've heard her speak several times. I never heard her speak about things of this situation, of this nature. Like I've been saying, if you know about it, haven't spoke about it, then you must be about it. So you're guilty by association, guilty as charged. Guilty, guilty, guilty. Next we have James Sunderland, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have next Marcus Steven, who is a writer and a director and actor. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have next Nobody Left Behind, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. If your name has not been called, but you participated, know about it, haven't talked about it, so you must be about it, you will not be left behind from the destruction that is coming to thee and everybody that has partaken in these actions. We have next here, Satanic Cult, which connects to Hebrew Gematria 620, Marcus Steven, James Sunderland, Miss Van Zant, right? Ashley De La Cruz, Andrew D. Taylor, all the way back up to Sounds of Freedom, Hebrew Gematria 620, Satanic Cult. Next we have Sex Means Kill, which connects to Sound of Freedom, Hebrew Gematria 620. We have Target Center 9. Now, you know, I wonder if this has anything to do with Target, because I know I've heard stories. I'm not going to even go there. You guys heard the stories. Target, Hebrew Gematria 620, which connects to Sex Means Kill, Hebrew Gematria 620, which connects to Satanic Cult, Hebrew Gematria 620, all the way back up to Sound of Freedom, Hebrew Gematria 620. We have Unmask Our Children, Let Them Go, right? Hebrew Gematria 620, Unmask Our Children, which connects to Sounds of Freedom, Hebrew Gematria, 620. We have Allen Houston, who is a basketball player who's connected to Sounds of Freedom. If you haven't talked about it, but you know about it, then you must be about it. Guilty by association, guilty as charged. Guilty, guilty, guilty. Sounds of Freedom, which connects to Parents Killer, Hebrew Gematria, 320, but connects to Parent Killers by the way of English Gematria, 960, Simple Gematria, 160. We have Sounds of Freedom, English Gematria, 960, Simple Gematria, 160, which connects to Dope, Blood, Money. We have next here, Hebrew Gematria, 620, CI defeating Illuminati. The Most High is defeating the Illuminati. Connected to Sounds of Freedom, Hebrew Gematria 620. We next have Bill Gates TED Talk, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have next, Fourth Horseman. The Fourth Horseman represents death. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Bill Gates TED Talk, which connects to CI defeating Illuminati, which connects to Blood, Money, Dope, which connects to Allen Houston, which connects to Unmask Our Children, which connects to Parents Killer, all the way back up to Sounds of Freedom. Hebrew Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We next have Claire Huxtable, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sounds of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have Sounds of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, connects to Access the Stars. We have next Project Bluebird. Now, Project Bluebird is formerly classified documents, right, from the 1952 on the CIA, and how they pretty much, it was an offshoot of Project MK Ultra. Okay, so Project Bluebird is pretty much just an offshoot of Project MK Ultra, but it started back in 1952. All right, so we should say that Project MK Ultra is an offset of Project Bluebeam that started way back in 1952 by the CIA. Understand that. So we have Project Bluebird, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, going back to Sounds of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, letting you know that they've been running this MK Ultra on our children for a very long time, going back many moons and suns. Next we have Project Ropes, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sounds of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. Now we have one, it's talking about me. It says Kill Ray, right? Sounds of Freedom, Hebrew Gematria 620, which connects to Kill Ray, Hebrew Gematria 620. But it won't happen because I stand on Yah's shoulder. This is why it says Mighty King, Hebrew Gematria 620, right? Praise Yah. Let's continue. We have Mr. Duke Ellington, Hebrew Gematria 620, which connects to Sounds of Freedom, Hebrew Gematria 620. Mr. Duke is an American pianist, right? So if you know about it, haven't talked about it, you must be about it. Guilty by association, guilty as charged. Guilty, guilty, guilty. Next we have Tucker Knows. That's talking about Carson Tucker, right? English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sounds of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. Mr. Carlson, speak out. We know that you know. Speak truth to the power. Next we have Food Chain Reaction, right? Because of the grain situation and also because of what's been exposed at this point in time. Now, since they know that the people are waking up and the powers that be are shaking in their boots, I think they're going to activate food shortages and really try to get back at us so people don't focus on what's being brought out now because they don't want all the focus and attention on them. So something big is getting ready to happen. A big change is getting ready to come. We have food chain reaction, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sounds of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. And let me say it again, folks, I'm telling you now, big change is coming because they've been exposed. The industry has been exposed on a mass scale. So in order for them to get the attention of the people back, for the people to take the attention off the elites and what they've been exposed to, something big has to happen. They're gonna cause something big to happen, you see? So be aware, folks, keep your eyes open. Next, we have Secret Base in Sedona, right? Hebrew Gematria 620, which connects back to Sounds of Freedom, Hebrew Gematria 620. Next, we have Just Reality. This is just the reality. This is just what it is, folks. Either you understand it or you don't be getting left like a bandit. You know what I'm saying? English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160 connects to Just Reality, connects us all the way back up to Sounds of Freedom. Next, we have Industry Baby, because like I said before, I think a lot of these children, right, are groomed as a real early, you hear what I'm saying? And they go through this traffic situation, they're groomed, they come in the industry, and they become industry babies. This is why it's so easy for them to continue to push the madness that they are pushing even when they become to adults, okay? Because it's been groomed, they've been groomed as a young child, you know what I'm saying? It's just the reality, right? So here we go. Industry Baby, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Just Reality, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects us back to Sounds of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have the Sacrifice of Praise. Next we have the Catholic Corona, right? We understand that means the Catholic crown. So we have the Catholic crown connected to the Sounds of Freedom, Hebrew Gematria 620. Can't get around it. Next we have the Prince God Oracle, English Gematria 1182, Simple Gematria 197, which connects to the Sounds of Freedom by the way the Hebrew Gematria 620, right? We have Has Died, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sounds of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. Keep your eyes out, folks, because a lot of things is going to transpire. But let's continue. We have Camp Crystal Lake, which connects to Sounds of Freedom by the way of English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. Now, for those who are asking, what is Camp Crystal Lake? Camp Crystal Lake, known as Camp Forest Green, also known as Camp Blood. Now, this was a fictional summer camp in Friday the 13th, folks, right? So this is connected to Sounds of Freedom, and you know what Sounds of Freedom's about, and we see that this camp is a fictional camp that was in a movie, right? Friday the 13th. The 13th, folks. The 13th, folks. The 13th, folks. But let's continue. We have Back on the Gold Standard. I said we have Back on the Gold Standard. Next we have Child Stuffed Animal, right? I say it again. Next we have Child Stuffed Animal, Hebrew Gematria 620, which connects to Sound of Freedom, Hebrew Gematria 620. We have Digital Murders, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sounds of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. Because see, a lot of them people took that Beetlejuice, and through that Beetlejuice, they can digitize that M. You hear what I'm saying? This is why what comes up next is Dr. Fauci. You hear what I'm saying? Democrats, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to that Digital Murder, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to that Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. See, a lot of people is going to get to talking, and a lot of people is going to get to dropping. But let's continue. We have Fall from Power. We have France is Burning. We have Gonach Snuff Film, right? Which is a socially awkward film. Check out that DEN, right? But let's continue. We have Disappearing Islands, Hebrew Gematria 620, which connects to Sound of Freedom, Hebrew Gematria 620. And I say it again, Disappearing Islands. We have Sound of Freedom, which connects to End of Lucifer Scheming, Hebrew Gematria 620. We have Famine Coming, Prepare, Hebrew Gematria 620, which connects to Sound of Freedom, Hebrew Gematria 620. Because like I said, folks, they need to, something needs to take place. They want to take the attention, the focus off them. So big changes are coming. Big changes are coming. We have Gladys Baker. We have Who is Mac Miller. We have Aretha Franklin died. Like I said, folks, if you know about it, haven't talked about it, you must have been about it. Guilty by association, guilty as charged. Guilty, guilty, guilty. Next we have He Be the King. You dig? That's talking about me, and I say it again. He be the king. You dig? We all know Yah is king. I am the governor of Israel. That is my introduction to you. Okay, the messenger of Yah. Okay, so we have He Be the King. You dig? Hebrew Gematria 620, which connects to Sounds of Freedom. Hebrew Gematria 620. Next, it says, I am key keeper, right? Once again, I am key keeper. Hebrew Gematria 620, which connects to He Be the King. You dig? Hebrew Gematria 620, which connects all the way back up to Sound of Freedom. Hebrew Gematria 620. Next we have Sound of Freedom, which connects to Probe Insertion, Hebrew Gematria 620, which connects to Put in a Room, right? So we gotta understand, these young ones who are put in a room sometimes have probes inserted, right? Which connects to Sounds of Freedom, Hebrew Gematria 620. We have Elon Reeve Musk. We have Jeremiah Lee Smith. We have Monarch Program, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. All connect to Nudist Children, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects us all the way back up to Sounds of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. Like I said, Elon Musk, if you haven't talked about it, if you hadn't spoke about it, the guilty as charged. You must be about it. Guilty by association. Guilty, guilty, guilty. Same thing with Jeremiah Lee Smith. If you haven't talked about it, you must be about it. Guilty by association. Guilty as charged. Guilty, 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 guilty. Monarch Program, Nudist Children, The World Chaos. Hebrew Gematria 2151, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. New World Chaos connects to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. Next we have Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, connects to Spirit of Evil, right? We have next Take Away the Pain, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Spirit of Evil, which connects to New World Chaos, which connects to Nudist Children, which connects to Monarch Program, which connects all the way back up to Sounds of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have Sounds of Freedom, the Sex Book, and I say it again, the Sounds of Freedom, the Sex Book, Hebrew Gematria 620, which connects to Sounds of Freedom, Hebrew Gematria 620. We have All Nations Collapse. We have That Murder Dying, Sounds of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, that connects to That Murder Dying, right? You know, like the spirit cooking, you gotta understand it's real. We have More Child Porn, Please. Hebrew Gematria 620, which connects to That Murder Dying, which connects to all the way back up to Sounds of Freedom, Hebrew Gematria 620, More Child Porn, Please. We next have Mr. Obama Prison, right? Hebrew Gematria 620, which connects to More Child Porn, Please. Hebrew Gematria 620, which connects to everything that I said previously to this, all the way up to I do apologize. Sounds of Freedom, Hebrew Gematria 620. We have Please Delete Rich people. Hebrew Gematria 620, which connects to Mr. Obama prison. Hebrew Gematria 620, which connects to more child porn pleas. Hebrew Gematria 620, which connects to spirit of evil, the new world chaos, take away the pain, the sex books, all nations collapse, that murder dime, monarch program, nudist children, Elon Reeve Musk, digital murderers, you know what I'm saying? End of Lucifer scheming, you hear what I mean? We need it all gone, right? Next we have Mass, VACCINATION. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to everything that I said all the way up to Sounds of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. Most Demonic Day, which connects to Mass, VACCINATION, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have next here, Operation Caesar. We have Too Many Deaths. We have The Voice of the Devil. We have American Freemason. We have The Day of Vengeance. We have now Seek Out, YHWH, and how you pronounce that is Yah. Seek Out Yah. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sounds of Freedom. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We next have Police Stood By. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have Julia Schumacher, SCHUHMACHER, however you pronounce that name, right? We have Julia, right? English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sounds of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Julia Child, Amazing, right? English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Laptop, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Inform the Mass, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. Next we have Jamie Foxx Clone, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. Folks, like I've been telling you, these are all timelines, right, of where we at right now in the world. You understand, right when this movie dropped, right around this movie drop, we had the situation with Jamie Foxx being cloned, right? And so we see here, it says Jamie Foxx clone, right? We see we've been having stories about if Jamie's here with us or if he's not here with us. Where is Jamie, right? Where's Waldo? Where's Jamie? We have Jamie Foxx clone, right? English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. You can't get around it, right? Because this is the timeline. You see what I'm saying? This movie dropped. Then we had the situation with Jamie Foxx. It might have came a little bit before then or a little bit after, but right around the situation of Sounds of Freedom, we had the Jamie Foxx situation. So what I'm saying is, folks, these are timeline stamps. You can't get around it. We are here. This is why we have next Messenger of Yah, which is me, right? Messenger of Yah. And yes, it does says Yah. You want me to spell it for you? Y-A-H. Messenger of Yah. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Modern Day Miracle. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Masonic Compass. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Rape. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. This is all dealing with what is coming out. I'm attached to this because Yah is using me to be a messenger for these things and other things that are held behind the veil. You understand? Yes, I am the governor of Israel and Yah is my rock. Let's continue. We have sacrificed Americans. We have satanic rulers. We have raining worms. Folks, go check it out. We had raining worms not too long ago. And once again, the timestamp, we are in the last days, right? America has fallen. Babylon is fallen, okay? Yah is here. The modern day miracle, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. Can't get around it, right? The ruling elite failed. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sounds of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have Epstein, Black Book, which connects to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. And I'll say it again, Epstein Black Book, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have Front for Evil, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Secret Love Child, which connects all the way back up to Sounds of Freedom, which gives us next the Russian bear. See, even Putin knows what's going on. This is why the bear arose. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. Let's go. We have the Stick of Judah, or like I like to say, the Stick of Yahuda. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sounds of Freedom. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. Kumbaya, that is our call. Sound of Freedom. Here we go, right? The Stick of Yahuda. NATO martial law, right? English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have next, Slaughter Phase, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. Yes, the Death Horse is coming. Slaughter Phase, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Snake Genetic, right? This is why it says so IVAXXED up, right? Those who did that, we're getting ready to go into a slaughter phase, right? English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, right? Which connects to Sounds of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 960. Now we have Evil Against God, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have Body Bags All Over. We have Jamie Foxx Killed. I say it again, Body Bags All Over. We have Jamie Foxx Killed. We have next, Sound of Freedom. Hold on to your ears, folks. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, SHIT, Blood, and CUM. Whew. We have next, Child is ID for Kill, 11-inch PENIS. Sounds of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to 11-inch PENIS. Next we have Murder Legalized, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sounds of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have next, Our Children, right? That's all it says. Our Children, but I'll let you know what it's saying. Our Children, the Victims, right? English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sounds of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have PBS News Tour, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sounds of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have People Are So Mean. We have Pfizer Nanotech. We have Portland Police. We have Prime Gene Editing. We have the Grim. You already know what that is. The Pale Horseman. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sounds of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have next, The Price of Blood, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sounds of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have They Are Crushed, hallelujah, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to the Sounds of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have Open Gates of Hell, right? Open up shot all, open up their grave. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have Great Awakening. We have Raging Reptilian. We have Ray Fears No Death. No, I don't. Let's continue. We have Red Shield of Satan. We have Satanic Propaganda, which connects to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, Satanic Propaganda. But this is why it says Satan has been defeated. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Seal of God, the Mark. Hallelujah. Which connects to, see, the Chosen One. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. So we have Prince Harry beheaded. See, the Chosen One. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. The seal of the God, the seal of God, the Mark. Right. We have next here RVACCINES, safe. No. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Artificial World, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, all the way back up to Sounds of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have Eliminated Bitcoin, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sounds of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have Epstein himself. We have Evil Kamala Harris. We have Adrenochrome Addict, right? Connecting to Amazing Musician, all the way back up to Evil Kamala Harris, Epstein himself, and everybody that I said before. Adrenochrome Addict, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Amazing Musicians, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Americans and Germans, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, Adrenochrome Addict, all the way back up to Sounds of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have now True Elohim, Yah, right? Y-A-H. Yes, that's how it says, folks. That's how it's written, right? True Elohim, Yah, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sounds of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 1160. We have next Trump Bullet, Trump is set. Turn back to God. True Elohim, Yah. 2 words. I am, right? English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Unsealed Epstein, which connects to Walter E. Disney, which connects to Walter Kaufman, right? Which connects to We're in Deep Shit, right? Because why? This is why we have what we have next. I roll with Yah. Exactly said, just like that. I roll with Yah, Y-A-H, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, can't get around it. Connected to Sounds of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have Elon Musk has died. We have betrayed his oath. We have Bill Gates, V-A-C-I-N-E. We have movie theaters. We have Satanic White Man. We have YHWH, which is Yah, owns all. We have You Are All Fucked. We have Yahuda Josin, right? So we have Yahuda Josin. Josin means jubilant, optimistic, cuddle, serene, accountability, nurturing. We have next a Hebrew Israelite, talking about me. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 16, which connects to Yah, Yehuda, Josin, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 16, which connects to You Are All Fucked, which connects to Yah owns all, which connects to True Elohim, Yah, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 16, which connects to I roll with Yah, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Messenger of Yah, right? English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. You can't get around it. This is why it says seek out Yah. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. You better get it right, man, because Yah's on his way. We have next here, protective care, right? This is what the children need. Protective care, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sound of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have God's War Machine, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to a Metonic Ritual, right? This is why Yah is here. He's about to destroy all the wickedness. English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, a Metonic Ritual connects to Sounds of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. We have Cloned Slave Laborers, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Sounds of Freedom, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. Next we have Yah, Y-A-H, Holy Wedding, English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160, which connects to Abba, Is It Time Yet? English Gematria 960, Simple Gematria 160. Abba Yah, Abba Yah, Abba Yah, Abba Yah. Yes, it is. English Gematria 960, Simple